You're hot.
12, never grew up. Typical Italian.
Welcome back to the Combo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula here.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Oz is spinning on those ones and twos. And we do have a show for you today, fam. It's election time.
Stop with the election. I'm pissed you even put it in there.
Yeah, I know. I know you are. But I did put a disclaimer in the very beginning and stuff like that. First of all, before we get rolling onto that and talk about the California primary and corrupt elections in the U.S., let's just send a shout out and some love to all the people who came in this morning to see Fee come on Anarchy in the Morning. Had a great, interesting show with Steven. And
ADHD conspiracies in the morning is what it should be.
Yeah, I know. Conspiracy Truths, as we played a little clip.
Alex Jones wannabe show.
Oh, my God. You don't even know about no, Alex. Stop it. All right. He did tell us a lot of things that the mainstream media didn't want to tell us, fam, that did come true.
Doesn't mean he's not a useful tool for the empire to discredit everything that is truthful.
I don't know. I mean, that guy's got one of the biggest freaking individual followings out there. So I don't know what he's discrediting for who. A bunch of shit libs that can go. I've never listened to Alex Jones.
Because some of what he says has been lies. So once you lie and you meddle the lies with the truth, it's literally used to discredit and call everybody a conspiracy theorist, even though there might be some grains of truth in what you say. It's like QAnon.
It's not even grains of truth. That's a big, so much of what he said was true. Way more further true than the mainstream media has ever been told.
So much, not a lot, not like all of it though. And that's the point. Well, all right, you can defend Alex Jones on other.
I don't want to defend Alex Jones right now. I want to do our show. Guys, thank you so much for joining in today. Thank you for everybody who's watching on the YouTube. There's less than 50 people there, so it's like, share, subscribe. Let's get it out there. We got a nice little crowd brewing on over in the Rockfin fam. Would you guess who came in first?
Trey Wright, my mate.
My mate, love you. Love you too, Trey Wright. Thank you so much for the Super Ray contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch, and we need to get rolling here today. We have a busy schedule, a busy weekend. What is going on this weekend, fam? Right.
So you guys know that the Biden DeMOCKracy summit, which is of the Americas, by the way, is going on. And, you know, I'm probably not going to be allowed in. So I'll just be reporting the counter protest from the LA Convention Center, and also covering the People's Summit, which, by the way, extremely disappointing that they are demanding that vaccination cards or a test, at least, or a test. But they're demanding masks inside, which I think is ridiculous at this point because the state does not require that. In fact, and nowhere else requires that. I went to the airport in Florida. We've been all over Colombia. Nobody's requiring any of this anymore. So it's really ridiculous. It is absolutely virtue signaling. The left, you know, I can talk more about that later, but the left just, they oppose the military industrial complex. They talk about how we're an empire and they hate all of it. And these politicians and these evil people, these corporations, and yet they separate big pharma from that entity when it's all part of the same thing. And it's really, really, really grinds my gears that they do that because, it's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. And so, you know, the word is pasta. There's going to be counter protesters that are going to go there that are gusanos. But I'm wondering if those gusanos might be anti-mandate. And that's when the conversation will get interesting because, in my opinion, both are idiots. And because they're equating what's happening with socialism, right? Instead of like fascism. And they're right about the mandate situation. Whereas the left is right about the anti-imperialist situation and about blaming the right people, but they're trying to use that government to allow that government that's in control to also control their entire bodies when they've been lying to them about everything. So they're idiots too. And I think if these two idiot groups would actually listen to some people like us, they could actually come together and focus on the common enemy, which is this administration, the Pentagon, the military industrial complex, the national security state apparatus, and all of those people. But they don't talk to each other. They scream at each other. They protest each other. Why are you wasting your time protesting other working class people? Why not protest, go straight and get these mother effers out, right? Why not go after the people in power? You're doing exactly what they want you to do. Period. End of story.
Well, fam, just to get to the first section before we get going to this weekend, let's get into what's going on because I'm a newspaper guy.
He's got two hats, guys. That's extra. This is what I mean by extra.
Anyways, fam, I'm a newspaper guy, and it says right here, U.S. House races in California in focus. And it says really there, incumbents expected to win primary challenges. Now, there's a couple of things I want people to pay attention to as we go along through this whole thing. Yeah, here's my first tweet. I'm going to put it out there right away. Let's just talk about this. For the California primary, ballots were mailed out over a month ago, fam, to everybody on the voter rolls.
But Pasta, they do that in other states, and it's never been a problem.
Yeah, they don't do that in other countries, and they know why they don't do it because it's just ridiculous. Combine that, fam, with 11 days of in-person voting. 11 days. In-person voting.
But Pasta, that's just making it more available for everybody to vote.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to suppress the vote, you right-wing fascists?
Well, that type of voting and the ruling class can fix an election 12 ways till Tuesday. Do you seriously believe you are getting fair and an accurate count?
They do.
No friggin' way, fam. I mean, we're just talking about this coming back from the heels of Colombia, what we witnessed over here. I'd like to ask, we should start asking election officials about this type of system, if they think they can get a fair election with this type of system.
You know, when we go to Brazil, I'm going to ask them, do you think you could get a fair election with this much
They're going to laugh in our face.
They're going to laugh in our face. And then we say this every time we go there. We talk to people who are anti-imperialists, and they agree with us on that point because we're in Latin America. But the thing is, guys, that if you agree with that there, then why not here? Oh, because we don't give them IDs. Okay, then make it your mission to get everybody an ID. Mm-hmm. Right? Get everybody an ID so they can vote. So we know how to match a person. You don't even want to do thumbprints because that's what they do in Venezuela. They do the fingerprints. It's all digital, but it's also backed by paper ballots. Nicaragua, just a black ink, as we know. Colombia starting the same thing. And it's still, and you still have rigging. You still have fraud. You still have possibilities. With this, there is just way too many things that can be done. And they get the idiotic left, the progressives, to think that any sort of opposition to the system means that we don't want people voting. No, it's the opposite. I want people's vote to count. Right now, people's votes aren't counting. Clearly, considering who are the idiots in power.
And this type of system really screws the progressives more than anybody, especially during the primaries right now. Why does it say that incumbents are expected to win primary challenges? They have a 27% approval rating in Congress. Why would they be expected to win with a fucking 20? And 27 is a high number. Are you kidding me? And I remember going to see the ballots with Johnny when they came in, the mail-in ballots. It's just a computer checking the signatures and stuff like that. You could turn that down to whatever you want. And it's not an election. There's no integrity. There's no chain of custody. It's a factory run by corporations for the ruling class to make sure they give you the illusion of a democracy while they always stay in power. And the fact is they push for more identifications. The left does in third world countries. Why? Because they know that's where they're going to be cheated.
Yeah. And so you got it backwards here. And by the way, the narco government of Colombia has more transparency when counting their ballots by hand than we ever have in a really long time. I mean, this is it.
We shuffle off our ballots. Another area where me and Johnny went to after we saw the whole process of taking in all these mail-in ballots from all these third-party workers, independent contractor, hiring people who have no stake in the game. No stake in the game. They're punching the clock. They want their check that's in and out. They don't give a shit what's going on. They're doing what they're told. As opposed to other countries, we have the volunteers. The people are controlling the elections. That's something Cynthia McKinney said. We need to take back our elections. The people. And after they shuffle off all these ballots that they've counted, who are coming from God knows where, nobody even looks at the contract, they send them off to be counted in this tabulation room, fam, that has software where they just shuffle them through a machine. And whatever the machine tells you that you can't even look inside to see what's under the hood, whatever that machine tells you, that's what we have to take as our election process over here, as an accurate count. This is craziness. And it's only worse today than it was 2 years ago, than it was 4 years ago. It is completely out of control right now. And populist grassroots candidates will never friggin' win because this system right here, this system assures that the ruling class maintains control and people are selected, not elected.
Yeah, unless they're compromised, they won't win.
Let's look at the results real quick too as well, because I just want to point out some things right now. It says Governor Gavin Newsom overwhelmingly favored to win re-election After defeating a recall drive last year, Republicans have thrown their support behind Brian Dahl, a state lawmaker, while author Michael Schellenberger, an independent, is hoping to rely on his large social media presence to reach the general election. And you can see he got hardly anything, Michael Schellenberger, 123,000 votes, if this is even right. Fam, they gave them check marks. Look what was reported. 44% of the votes are reported and they're already calling it. How is that possible, fam, that they call it with only 44% reported, fam? Not even half the votes are in, and they're calling
because they know who they want their winner to be.
Yeah. And
it's as simple as that.
If you call to ask them why, they'll tell you, they'll say, well, we have enough sample size right now to understand that it's not going to skew.
With the 2020 election,
oh, no,
and I'm not going
not
to say anything else about that, but we know.
Yeah, that we had to go to 96% before we made fucking calls. Los Angeles mayor, it's just kind of an interesting race to pick up. Everybody's been kind of, all the progressives have been pushing against, don't let Rick Caruso. Look at De Leon in there. Look at De Leon in there. Well, Karen Bass and Rick Caruso are headed to the finals. That was with 18% reported, and they called it.
This is what I don't get about these morons.
This
are you so mad that they call it so early? Progressives, all the work you do, all the activism you do, for what? Do you not realize how you're being completely played? How daft do you have to be at this point? It's 2022. The fucking world is falling apart, especially this country. We're in the brink of world nuclear war. And these morons still believe that their elections are fair and transparent.
I mean, these elections are a joke. This is a friggin' joke at this point. My good friend James Bradley, who ran in this election right now, I said, James, you're getting too much noise on you, too much energy. They're going to make sure that you get suppressed on your vote. Well, here it is. The term is 2023 to 2028. This is Alex Padilla, fam, one of fam's favorite politicians out there.
Amazing
Estimated
Secretary of State, fam. He did so well.
Yeah. 48% of the votes elections. And they called it for the top two. But the funny, interesting thing is there's a lot of GOP headhunters in this particular race. They finished second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth in this race. Combining their total still is less than Alex Padilla. But the mathematics, if you're paying attention to this and this makes sense to you, that says that could be a contested race.
It could be if we had fair elections. And also if they got their shit together. Because, that's what we're looking at for the Columbia June 19th second round is that the percentages for Gustavo Petro and what's his name Hernandez are so close. That's within the margin of error. They can take that easily. They can just do a few things and take it home. And so what you have to do is add up the other candidates who will unite with somebody. Those people are going to vote for somebody. So that's why you look at that.
48% of the vote in, fam. I just want to mention that there's like 5 other freaking Republicans behind Mark Monsieur. Why would they call this election so early? I think you guys should call national election officials. How do you call a race with 48%, 50%, 60%? See what they say, record it, let them know, and just report back to us. I'm going to guarantee you, they're going to tell you what we just said.
Yeah.
But yet, like I said,
or give you the runaround.
It didn't imply by a certain election. Fam, I want to report some good news. 54%. We voted out fascism.
51%.
54% of the vote in. 51% for Katie Porter against Scott Baugh.
Yay, Katie Porter, the lip service queen, while taking, corporate money, pushing imperialist foreign policy. Oh, no, but it doesn't matter because domestically she gives it to the Republicans, right? That's what progressives saying. I mean, that's where they're at. That's exactly where they're at. Can you tell I've had a lot of coffee today? Because I never have this much coffee, you guys. And I had to have coffee to deal with the morning show and their antics.
I did not see what happened. I was looking for it. It wasn't in the papers.
With Pelosi?
With Pelosi, but I want to. Okay.
Well, we can announce
so here it is right here. House Speaker Pelosi received 71.4% of the vote in a newly redrawn district, 11th district. I want to make sure this is the right one. This is June 8th. Okay. And here, check it out. So the second spot fell. The election was still up for grabs as of Wednesday morning between San Francisco Republican Chair John Dennis, who had 12.4% of the vote, and Democrat Shahid Buttar, who had 8.5% of the vote.
Yeah. There's no way. Nancy Pelosi is one of the most hated politicians in the entire country. There is no way her percentages are that, just based on that. Now, if you want to debate me and say, well, you don't know it's rigged. Actually, you don't know it's not. So that what I'm telling you is that we don't have fair elections. There's no way to check if it is or isn't. So therefore, you can't tell me with 100% certainty that she won that race fair and square. And of course, adding public opinion to that. Come on.
Saying that elections are fair in the United States is like saying that games at a carnival are not rigged.
But Pasta, the United States is just going to go around cooing a government
based on their elections,
pushing regime change and changing their elections, but not ours. No, ours is off limits, right? They're not going to do to us what they do to them. No, that's absolutely impossible. I'm going to make that illogical distinction in my brain and be a complete and total dumbass and just create this fantasy world where domestic policy is separate from foreign policy.
Chesa Boudin is now out over soft on crimes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, I mean, the recall worked on him.
Yeah. And you know what? And like, there is a two ways of looking at that. Chesa Boudin was, of course, the son of the I forget.
I know what you're talking about.
But he was definitely the leftist candidate. Now, the problem is that, of course, this is what always happens, right? Both Democrats and Republicans allow poverty to come in. They don't do shit. And then what happens? The Republicans come in and they say, we need to do away with crime. Why? Because it just so happened that, of course, during his term, you had break-ins to houses, to cars, crime rising. So what do? They say, see, when you have these low punishment type of leaders, what happens is the criminals take over. So what does that do? It takes our government further right. And it gives us harsher punishments. It increases incarceration because now they're going to come back and crack down on it with a more conservative approach. And then that repeats over and over again. And so we're moving further and further into a fascist authoritarian state. And that is by design.
I wonder how Angelica did on the race fam. I did not see her numbers. I'm so sorry. I mean, it was like they're making it harder to go find these numbers right now. So I'm just going to check real quick to see what's going on in her district. She was taking on military industrial complex, Tony Cardenas.
Yeah, but instead of going like to where you should go, talking about foreign policy, trying to be a different candidate, sort of, and she used to be a Green. I mean, we know Angelica, she used to be a Green, trying to work within the progressive bullshit brand. It does not work. Yeah. It does not work anymore. You have to break that mold. Period.
Shahid was trying to do the same thing too as well. It's just not.
You're
not
offering anything new.
Yeah. And the thing is that if you're kind of in that bubble where you're refusing to talk to the other side, the thing that just blew my mind is that all these progressives were going around and they were based on their number two top things that they were basing their candidacy on, and that was their clan, that was their echo chamber of sorts, and that was Medicare for all and a Green New Deal. Well, Medicare for all is not what bill out there is really worth that. A lot of the nation will like say, okay, let's adapt this one. I'm not saying that healthcare isn't a human right, but handing it over to the state, that's not going to fly anymore. It's definitely going to fly with independents and Republicans. It's not going to work whatsoever. So when you sit there and go, well, 80% of the people want Medicare for all. Yeah, but they don't want the state controlling stuff, especially what we witnessed after the last couple of years and the Green New Deal.
I think
you guys are still saying, I'm sorry, you want to stay on Medicare for all?
Yeah,
first?
I just think it's more than the state. I mean, I think that's like people who don't believe in a state. I think it's more of the fact that this current state is corrupt. This current government is corrupt. Yeah. So people, and obviously after post-pandemic, people don't trust that it's going to do what needs to be done. And, aside from the anarchists that want no state, like the state doesn't have to be bad, but the current state is bad. So whatever you get under a Medicare for all system isn't going to be up to par as to what you think it's going to be. However, would it be nice for people to have some sort of relief? Yeah. Relief. Yeah. But when they give it to you, they're going to put constraints on it, right? They're going to put little things that you must do in order to get it. And that's the problem. That's the situation we find ourselves in. So wanting Medicare for all is a reformist way of thinking. We're at the point where we need to get rid of the current state. And people don't see that yet. So they're still reforming. Which is why this country isn't ready for a revolution yet, because they're still trying to fix it when it cannot be fixed.
Alex Villanueva is expected to maintain the win and keep his position in office.
Oh, I can't say it. Gloria, I'm not going to say it.
What's that?
When she calls Villanueva. Well, punk ass. I'll call him a punk ass.
And I was just looking at some of the other chairs. I didn't get to see any of the other stuff. I don't know where it's at.
I mean, it doesn't matter, Pasta.
Well, I wanted to see how Angelica Duenas did if she made the top two positions to get there. Jesus, that's an old one. Okay. Anyways, we'll take a more look into it, but it doesn't look like Shahid's going to make it to the second round. I didn't look at all the individual races. I didn't see if Maria Estrada, how she did. She had an election, right?
I don't think so.
No, I don't even see. That's how far I removed them from the system in the United States.
I don't care,
especially in California, because it's so ridiculous. You're never going to get a.
You're like,
it's ridiculous.
I mean, from people who have traveled to other countries and seen other elections, this is theatrics. It's a show. They're making you feel like your vote counts. Your vote doesn't count. You're not going to vote your way out of this. And I quote tweeted Marilyn Williamson, or I tagged her. And she got ratioed because, guys, the vast majority of people understand that they don't have fair elections. They just don't know how to fix it. And you're in denial if you think the Democratic Party is going to help you vote out fascism. I mean, I think it's stupid that I even have to say that anymore. This is insane. I mean, we're at a different place now. We got the Bilderberg group meeting in secret, and there's like 4 journalists that covered it. Because why? Because it was kept secret. Because a lot of people are like, well, it's a conspiracy. No, it's a fact. Rich people have the same common interests. They meet together. They push an agenda. It's that simple.
Fam, newspaper guy just finishing up the second says early voting goes at snail's pace.
Anyway, so
early voting.
Let's get to this next section.
Yeah, let's do that. By the way, Rob McMurtry, thank you for the super great contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch, hanging out with Troy Wright. Guys, do us a favor. Give us a like, give us a share, give us a subscribe.
Algorithm right now.
Fam, Biden's DeMOCKracy.
Okay, so listen. I can't see it. So
I got it. It's terrible.
Well, it's like all the way over there. Okay, so guys, Biden's Democracy Summit of the Americas. Okay, first of all, this summit is supposed to be to talk about how the Latin American countries and can work together with the West to try to bring about democracy
in the region.
Meanwhile, the Biden administration, the State Department are, trying to destroy Africa, trying to wage war with China and Russia, arming Nazis, and completely not caring about the population in the United States or the populations abroad either. So rich of them to have a democracy, which is why I titled it Mock. So I'm going to go through this really rather quickly because the important thing to know about this whole situation is there's been tons and tons of pushback, tons of protests, tons of independent groups protesting what the Biden administration is doing. Both, obviously there's people on the right protesting him and there's people on the left. This is a very important point to make, guys, because these people should be talking to each other. Mm-hmm. And saying, okay, well, we can have our fight at the ring, but we need to get rid of these idiots. But instead, they don't do that. They fight each other. So one of the things that never gets talked about what, the United States does, and we've seen this firsthand, and I think we're going to continue to see it more as we go deeper into Latin America, is the fact that the Amazon has been absolutely and totally just, corporatized in so many ways. Bolsonaro is one of them, but the United States, of course, pushed that as well. That as has Europe, they've made a ton of money on destroying the Amazon. So here is a person talking about this, right? Talking about the Amazon land protest. And of course, I'm going to shout out Castle Chan News, who had some Abraham out there. So let's play the video.
My name is Xiomara Chingate. I'm here with Amazon Watch and Stand.Earth, and we're here in front of the Sheraton where the Summit of the Americas conference is set to begin this week. And so tonight we have invited the community to come and gather in a vigil, mourning the loss of the life that has been irreparably destroyed in the Amazon, that we will never see, both human and non-human species that we'll never see again, and be able to encourage people to plug into what that feels like and what that really means, and hope that that will spur them into taking action to encourage global leaders who are going to be making decisions on how our planet is going to proceed in the next few years, whether we will go over that tipping point in the Amazon or not, and also saying, this is not just about money, it's about our planet's health, it's about our future generations, it's about our children and grandchildren, and if they're going to survive, and if they're going to live healthy, radiant lives.
So this, I want to bring up 2 points about this. One, earlier today, we were discussing anarchy. We were discussing what would happen, without a government, and what's happened to Native people, like she mentioned. I just don't see how without a force to push back against some sort of tyrannical attempt, whether it's a clan, whether it's a big government, you're going to be able to save these people, right? And that's one point I want to make. The other point is that the whole environmental movement, especially in the United States and the West, has been co-opted to make money, to create this sort of agenda. But the realities that exist in these third world nations, rich resource nations like in Latin America, are very real. And people are living in these realities because the West has made them, these lands, their exploitation, their lands of exploitation and of dumping and waste, and in that same vein. So it's important to point out the differences between, the exaggeration about and the weaponization of things like the environment and the environmental movement, but also understand that there are a lot of things happening with the environment that are detrimental to our existence.
I mean, we need real solutions. We need real action, whatnot. I mean, I was talking about, I talk about it all the time, with the power of marijuana, how we can, the majority of our energy, electricity wise in the United States, comes from coal. Plain and simple. You know what I'm saying? So when you say I have an electrical car, you really don't have a clean car, because the energy that was used to it comes from coal. So we can replace coal with THC pellets, hemp pellets. We can really do these things where it can generate enough heat to get it done. We deforest the whole freaking planet over here. I think 1/3 of the forest in the world has been deforested. The forest has been deforested within the last 20 years or some shit. It's been ridiculous. There's so many products we can use from hemp and whatnot. I mean, there's ways about going about things the right and the proper way. And it seems like no matter what, that the certain solutions, which a lot of people seem to cling to when they say Green New Deal, Green New Deal, Green New Deal, which we talked about these progressive candidates, they're clinging to Medicare for All and Green New Deal, which is not even some serious legislation, fam. It's a bunch of phony legislation. It doesn't even look at, it's Build Back Better. It doesn't even look at how the bombs dropping, what they do to our planet and whatnot and stuff like that. So we need to come up with some really good legislation that really is not just, co-opted.
Right.
And not taken advantage of.
We can't, because we don't have the power. This government will not allow that. That's the point. They want to make it look like they're progressing, but really they're not doing anything. This is why we're not. We're not going to get out of this through voting. So, so President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador, or Amlo, refuses to attend Biden's DeMOCKracy Summit of the Americas because the State Department, as you all know, already excluded, and let's put the slide, excluded Nicaragua, Cuba, and Venezuela. And actually, they invited Spain and Juan Guaido. And we're going to get into that in a minute. But I said it's almost as if Latin America was never liberated from Western colonialism. It simply switched masks. Because, I mean, as a Latin American, and, I just went to the Bolivarian, the Simón Bolívar's house in Colombia, in Bogota. And so that got me to read a little bit more about him. I mean, I wasn't taught very much about him, but my parents were. Obviously. That was the capital of Lima, was the capital of the Bolivarian state. It went through several stages before it didn't stay together, because of course, as always, the left has to fight with each other and ruin everything. But it could have been something, and I think amazing that Latin America could have done. And I think Latin America is sort of trying to head in that direction because they have a lot of the same interests, a lot of the same culture.
They recognize who the number one enemy is.
They recognize their enemy. And
like you said, it switched masks.
You just got to get rid of the CIA puppets that are in Latin America and the weaklings as well. But anyway, I digress. So that just has led me to really be thinking about revolutions and revolts, and to understand that, you know, the United States is not ready for that. And so I said decades of fighting against the Spanish for independence to only be colonized by Yankee imperialism have made the people of South and Central America dependent on the West. They literally spent decades trying to get rid of the Spanish, and then who came in and started controlling and exploiting the resources? Of course, the United States government. You could say the same thing about us. We spent all this time trying to liberate ourselves from the British to only be colonized in the same way by the system empowered by the state that has continued exploiting us and putting us in a sense of in wage slavery. And in some senses, of course, slavery never ended because you see the same people falling into the same traps. And it's just, you know, this is just a different mask that is happening, right? And we're just too propagandized. And I said the anti-imperialist factions in those nations in the global South have done more to build against Western unilateral control, in spite of, you know, having all these things at them, than we have here in the United States and Canada for over 100 years. And I said Africa is doing the same. They're uniting against NATO. They're having these organizations, and of course the East with Russia and China. Now, Matthew Era talked a little bit about it. I'm in complete agreement with him, sort of, for the most part. But not on all things, but on that particular issue, I'm pretty much in agreement. And, you know, I think this is the time in those areas where revolutions are happening or could happen very soon. But here, I think we'll have civil war before we have anything else. Sadly.
All right.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you have a different opinion.
No, I have to agree with you. I have to agree with you because it just, you know what I'm saying? Well, that's the thing.
That's what they want, right?
That's what the ruling class wants. They have a great way of dividing us, and they succeed at it. And I mean, that's why I do this thing more than anything. I mean, I just want to speak for myself, is to make sure that we can build bridges so citizens don't kill each other. And anybody who kind of pushes that narrative where they say your enemy is your neighbor and not the government and not the people above, those are the people I despise, and I push back against them. And a lot of theorists, they get into those kind of corners of what we saw today. You know what I'm saying? Like what we are, when the communists get power, the first thing they do is kill all the anarchists. That's a crock of shit. That might have happened in 1918. But that was before, you know, life completely changed and we had a technocratic boom. Everything we do is different. Our behavior is different. Well, every step we take, our communication is different. So it's a different time. So I don't believe that and buy that and whatnot, because I do believe there's beauty in every single system, and I believe there's evil in every single system. And it's up to us to take the good things from each system and make it work. But it's going to take some type of collectivist kind of coalition of sorts to beat back this evil, crazy state.
Yeah, no. And
we can't get to, we'll go our separate ways until we get to the we. How do we get to the we? And that's the question.
Yeah. And
can't just opt out.
You can't opt out. You can't opt out right now. You can't. No man is an island. It's just not going to happen. I agree with you 100% on that. And I think, you know, the fight right now is to get some sort of unity against these fascists. After that, you know, we'll see what happens. But I wanted to go over what Amlo said, because this is important. What Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador said, because it marks a shift where Mexico has been a close partner of the United States, especially with previous administrations. Amlo in these past few months has been really just radicalizing his positions a little bit further. I spoke to one of our Mexican friends from Oaxaca, Daniela, who was in Colombia, at length about AMLO. And, you know, she said that there's not a replacement. There's not a leadership. There's not real leadership. And one of the things that, you know, I've definitely come to understanding is that as much as we need to have multiple leaders, strong leaders make or break movements. And if you don't have a strong leader, things can easily everything can be undone. Everything he has done could be undone in a matter of seconds. And like a leader will usher in movements and help carry them out. And AMLO said no country has the right to impose on another how to govern itself. And this is from Telesur. The Mexican foreign minister said nothing, noting America's that AMLO decided not to attend the summit of the Americas. So this was said by Mexican foreign minister Marcelo Ebrard, actually, and who's the one that traveled on behalf of AMLO. However, so Mexican foreign minister Marcelo Ebrard is part of the right. He's like an infiltrator into that party. Several Mexican friends have talked to me about him. He's not somebody to be trusted. And that's the problem. That's the infiltration is happening. The United States has their eye on Mexico now, especially because of things like this that AMLO is doing. And so he said the principle we defend here is that all countries should be invited and no country has the right to impose on another how to govern itself. It is called non-intervention and self-determination of people and respect for the other. I mean, that sounds pretty like
that's the whole principle of what's going on. Yeah.
But that's what we all want, right?
We all come together. We all have a seat at the table. We decide what's best. Not one country's dictating who gets to go, who doesn't get to go. Like you said, fam, it's like the same thing as the Spanish colonialism. It's just wearing a different mask.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. Okay. And so let's go to the next one right here. And he specifically said, AMLO did say, there cannot be a summit of the Americas if all the countries of the American continent do not participate, or there can be, but it is just a continuation of the old policy of interventionism or disrespect of nations and their peoples.
Bingo.
So, I mean, this is a shift. DC does not like this. They're not liking this at all. They are watching him like a hawk. Our friend Terry said they were going to look to Mexico soon. They're definitely going to look to Mexico. They're definitely looking to Venezuela as well after this. And
if I was president, this would never happen. They would never, AMLO would never do this if I was sitting here. If Donald J. Trump, was the president, first of all, China. Secondly, he would never do this.
I mean,
Putin would have never went into Ukraine. AMLO would have never acted up because they feared us when I was a president, fam.
I'm sure they did, Trump.
Sorry for doing that, but I had to do that.
But that's because
that's what's going to be said.
Yeah, and people are going to fall for it because they look to
DeSantis will freaking ring that bell. Oh my God! This is because this administration is letting Venezuela and Cuba getting away with everything. Now they're letting Venezuela take oil. They're letting another country take oil to sell it to where they want.
The problem is that people in the United States fall for charlatans. They fall for fake leaders, right? They fall for reality television on display, because there's a difference between an altruistic leader and an ego-driven leader. An ego-driven leader will do it for themselves. Will put the blame on another person instead on the actual mechanisms in the system. An altruistic leader will actually try to do things for people, and they won't have to do much. People will reciprocate that because it happens naturally. And that's people have such a hard time discerning who's bullshitting them and who's not, especially in this country, especially on the left. And they just don't get it. They don't get it.
And let me just say this much, that all the politicians in the United States Congress, when it comes to foreign policy in the global South, Gusanos, all of them Gusanos. We don't have any independent why don't we stop messing around in these people's countries and let them thrive off their own natural resources and stop pushing the IMF and all these other military deals on these countries where you have 80 bases in the global South and climbing close to 100 now, some of the biggest bases and stuff. Not one person in Congress fighting like that. We have all Gusanos.
Exactly. Okay, so let's play this video of AMLO.
You want me to translate her?
No, it's okay. I got it.
Gotcha.
We got it.
Sorry. Bam's got it.
Y no voy a la cumbre porque no se invita a todos los países de América. Y yo creo en la necesidad de cambiar la política que se ha venido imponiendo desde hace siglos, la exclusión, el querer dominar sin razón alguna el no respetar la soberanía de los países, la independencia de cada país. Y no puede haber cumbre de las Américas si no participan todos los países del continente americano. O puede haber, pero nosotros consideramos que es seguir con la vieja política de intervencionismo, de falta de respeto a las naciones y a sus pueblos.
What time is stuff starting in Mexico now? And they're doing it in Tijuana, right at the border, right?
Yeah, so that's going to be on the weekend. So there's two things. There's a People Summit happening today and Thursday and Friday. And then there's the the Worker Summit of the Americas, which is happening in Tijuana Saturday and Sunday. And that one doesn't require vaccine mandates. And that one's going to have a lot of pro-Cuban, pro-Venezuela workers. It's going to have a lot of the orgs we were just in Alliance for Global Justice, a lot of different orgs that we just worked with.
Yeah.
That one I'm really excited to go to. I think it's going to be cool. I'm definitely going to that. And this shows that, again, Latin America is pushing back now, and they feel more empowered to do so, of course, because they have the backing of Russia and China. That is a fact. All of this is connected. I thought it was amazing what he said. I think it's extremely bold to do that. But I think right now, as I said, Central and South America feel more empowered to do this at this moment. Now, what's her name? Janine Añez is right now in the process of being given a sentence, which I think is far too light. She's facing 30. She might get 15 or less. For her part in the coup, of course, the U.S.-backed coup.
Such a big important thing, by the way.
Yeah, such a big important thing. Castro News, Camilla was covering it live in Bolivia, in Cochabamba, I believe.
Might deter other future inspirational coup plotters with the United States to maybe think before they act if Miss Añez gets at least 30 years for sitting there and doing what she did.
Yeah. And it's also a learning lesson to you have to have the military on your end, because that's how they were able to do that. They were able to take over the military. And so former President Evo Morales had something to say regarding this Biden summit of the Americas, and he called it unfruitful. In fact, he called it like a stillborn. He said that the summit of the Americas was stillborn due to the decision of the Biden administration not to invite everyone to the meeting. And he said the latest version of the misnamed Summit of the Americas is born dead by the absence of several brother presidents who reject the arbitrary and unilateral exclusion of Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua by the United States. And he posted that on Twitter, and he praised the decision of some presidents in the region not to attend the summit, which began on Monday in LA. According to the international media reports, at least 8 presidents would not participate in the event in protest against the U.S. exclusion policy, among them Mexican President Amlo and the actual Bolivian President Luis Arce, who did not show up, which shows, again, a shift. And Morales also accused the U.S. administration of charging him with provoking division and charged them with promoting division instead of integration. That's exactly what they're doing. And of course, Joe Biden confirmed that they're not inviting any of those people. In fact, when asked,
Who are the 8, though, right? There are 2 of the 8. It's Bolivia, Mexico,
I think,
Nicaragua, Venezuela, Cuba. Who's the other 3?
I'm not 100% sure. I know. Unfortunately, Gabriel Boric went. Pedro
Boric
Castillo,
is from where?
Boric is Chile. Castillo, obviously Peru. Which, I mean, they're like weak. They're not. Honduras did not send Xiomara.
Xiomara did not. Okay.
No. I'm not sure about the rest.
Did Bukele go for sure?
I didn't see Bukele. I have the list. If you want to pull it up on the WhatsApp chat, Terry had it. And who else?
The anti-imperialist one?
Yeah. And, and this is like, I can't stress enough how important this is, because Latin America has never been in a position right now to push back like this. And of course, the fear of coups is still lingering there. We have Colombia, of course, that right now is fighting to get rid of a government that the United States helped implement. And after decades and decades of bloodshed, this election is happening as while we're discussing this. I mean, we're days away now from the second round, and so this is a pivotal moment right now where we're seeing this shift, right? And the question always is, well, will this multipolar shift actually lead to an improvement in the world? What does that mean? Are the same global elites going to get their hands on and try to manipulate and subvert this sort of pushback? But I think it's wise to say this is a positive, because any pushback against the current empire and the status quo is a positive. And I do want to start playing the Anthony Blinken video. So
Bolsonaro might skip.
Bolsonaro, that's I think a later clip where they ask about Bolsonaro and she says Guaido because she doesn't know who that is, or it should be. Oh yeah, I think it's later. I don't know. The press secretary that Steve's in love with said that they asked her a question about Bolsonaro and she answered with, yes, we support Guaido as interim president.
No.
Yes, she did. She did. She said Guido. She said it wrong. She said it entirely wrong. She seems extremely nervous, extremely just not cut out for this job right now, right? So
she's learning on the fly.
Peppermint Patty was definitely
way
better
more
suited,
seasoned.
yeah, for being evil, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's points to what's her name? I forget her name.
For who?
Press secretary, the new one.
Karine Jean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's Haitian.
Pierre.
God. Okay.
Karine Pierre.
I don't even know where to start with that. So Blinken, somehow, Abraham got into this conference where Abby Martin was in, where Eugene Pryor was in from Breakthrough News, and PSL activist was in as well. We're going to go through some of these videos. I'm going to do the Steve. Pause. Okay.
Okay, we'll start and then he'll tell you when to pause.
She'll. I am a she.
I mean, yeah.
Don't misgender
what
me.
She said. Fee.
The invitation of Dr. Ariel Henry from Haiti, when he is ruling with no mandate in contravention of the Haitian Constitution, and when he's been implicated in, I think you would admit, very serious crimes, including the murder of a Haitian journalist just this February by Haitian police.
So we'll have plenty of opportunity, I think, in the days ahead to talk about the summit, the participation in the summit, who's here, who's not. In Haiti, we continue to work for a transition that leads to appropriate elections that are supported by all the Haitian people. We continue to work to deal with gang violence that is afflicting the country and is doing terrible damage to the Haitian people. We continue to work to try to find ways to support the Haitian people who are born more than their share of trouble in the last years, both human and naturally made. So in all of these ways, we're working, including with partners in our hemisphere, to try to support the Haitian people, but we want to...
Okay, so I just want to say Haiti is one of the countries that has been most screwed by U.S. imperialism. Coup after coup after coup after coup. That's Haiti. And by the way, the Haitian Revolution inspired the Bolivarian Revolution. They looked at how Haiti revolted.
Exactly.
They mimicked that revolution, and yet Haiti, the inspiration for these revolutions, is completely just destroyed from Western and NATO imperialism. And he has the audacity to literally say, we're looking to help, blah, blah, blah. It is not your job. It is not your jurisdiction. You have done enough damage, but they know this. But they think they are, of course, the world police, daddy, the world police.
Yeah, this jerk off more than anything works for the same freaking clan, the Clintons, the Obamas, that have just brought nothing but death and destruction to Haiti, to what's going on there today with the Clinton Foundation. That's disgusting, despisable. And I like the way he also said, we'll have plenty of times to talk about this stuff just so I can go to my banter, my points, just say shit. We're going to be nice and whatnot and everything. But we won't talk about what really happened with the president and whatnot. Let's just move along. Nothing to see here, fam. It's truly despicable. Want to continue to roll this?
Yeah, let's roll
into it, baby.
Want to see them have a truly representative government, and that goes down the path of getting to new elections in the
Haiti gets it
in the coming time.
The Prime Minister Henry is refusing to negotiate with civil society. Again, he is actually governing with no constitutional mandate. His government has been implicated in many different crimes, including potentially the murder of the past president. You yourself have said in your speech here today and in previous statements that countries like Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua, that you mentioned, are being excluded from the Summit of the Americas because you deem them not to be democratic. But how can you use that as your justification when you have the so-called Prime Minister of Haiti who is ruling under no sort of democratic mandate here, despite the fact that this is well known in terms of the repression of journalists, the repression of protesters, and his previous involvement in the coup against President Aristide that the New York Times has at least alleged the United States government was supporting of.
Again, we, like many other countries, are determined to get into the facts of what happened in Haiti, including the assassination of the previous Prime Minister. We're determined to find the facts wherever they lead and to whomever they lead.
Okay, and now we would like to get started on our conversation.
Did you see that? First of all, that was a great question. Way to frame it. Way to point it out. I mean, how can you sit here and talk about these other countries? You're saying they're non-democratic when they have democratically elected leaders. When you're supporting the prime minister who's under so much suspicion, who looks to be a perfect puppet of the CIA to make sure that assassination went the way it did, and then was put into place to make sure that nobody else grabs power in Haiti and the CIA is still holding the power.
When we were covering that, they spoke English.
Yeah. No.
I mean, come on, guys. How many coups does the United States have to carry out for people to recognize the same regime change playbook? I mean, it's just one playbook with a couple of little, tweaks here and there depending on the country, but it's the same exact playbook.
And the same way that Blinken and all these politicians can just lie. Hey, we're looking to get to the bottom of this ourselves. We really don't know what's going on, and we want to make sure that they have fair elections. No, you want to make sure that you have complete control in the Caribbean and in South and Central America on your own soil that you feel that belongs to you. I mean, this is disgusting. This is just terrible. And they never answered the question.
It's neocolonialism. I mean, it never really, like I said, we just said, like, it's the United States, we went from England to the Spain to the United States. I mean, this is it. It's the same entities at this point. Did
Blinken really think he was going to walk in here and not get his ass handed to him, fam?
I mean, because they weren't supposed to allow anybody that wasn't credentialed specifically, and surprising they allowed people in. But as one of our friends commented, they're probably not, after this, they're probably not going to do that anymore. So I highly doubt that, when I'm outside, they're going to let us in, especially Russian state affiliated media.
Roll film.
Roll.
That we have planned here today. Yes, I'm excited to get started on this, and I think everyone will enjoy it as well. And we'll have more time, of course, to answer these questions after the discussion.
We'll be happy to follow up with these questions.
For sure.
Thank you.
Blinken, what about Shireen Abu-Akleh? She was murdered by Israeli forces. Right? CNN just agreed to this. These are your two greatest allies in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia.
Again,
murdered American journalists, and there have been absolutely no repercussions. And you're sitting up here talking about the freedom of press and democracy. The United States is denying sovereignty to tens of millions of people around the world with draconian sanctions for electing leaders that you do not like. Why is there no accountability for Israel or Saudi Arabia for murdering journalists? It is one of the most dangerous places in the world to be a journalist in Palestine.
I deplore the loss of Shireen. She was a remarkable journalist, an American citizen, as you all know. And there, too, we are determined to follow the facts and get to the truth of what happened. No, they have not yet been. No, I'm sorry, with respect, they have not yet been established. We're looking for. No, they have not. We were looking for an independent, credible investigation. When that investigation happens, we will follow the facts wherever they lead. It's as straightforward as that. That has not yet happened, but it's something that we very much want to see happen.
And we'll have time after the panel, of course, to talk more about this. But Madison, go ahead.
Yeah, so thanks for joining us here tonight. I'm super honored and excited to be here.
the fuck.
With all due respect, fam. With all due respect.
Okay, so fuck respect for Blinken. Like, there's no respect on either end. There's no respect for warmongers. Warmongers deserve to be put in prison for the rest of their lives. I don't even say kill them. I say put them in prison. Make them work. That's what they deserve. There's no respect. She said a couple things there that were right, and that was Abby Martin, who has me blocked on Twitter. But she did say a couple of things that were right about Shireen and about journalists and about Palestine being a very dangerous place to be a journalist, because it is disgusting that Israel can murder journalists without impunity. But you know what's even more disgusting is that he gets to say that we don't know the facts. There is a fucking video. There's video out there of how she got shot in the face, and that video is clearly shows a sniper. It clearly shows that they targeted her. They targeted the person next to her as well, who also went to the hospital. So there's no justification of we need to know the facts. This is the United States State Department defending Israel. So you can't go at them with softballs. They're a criminal organization. This is a crime. This is an international crime. And of course, let's not forget to mention Julian Assange. Julian Assange is the ultimate example of this, of course, for us especially, and for any foreigner, because he's Australian, and any journalist, because if they don't kill you, if they don't let one of the, Israel kills journalists, so does Saudi Arabia. But what we do is we kill them slowly. We smear them, or we put them in prison to face 175 years for the crime of exposing Western war crimes. And that's what Julian Assange is exposing. And his name should be mentioned at every single turn, because the State Department had already condemned the killing of Shireen, but they will never condemn the jailing of Julian Assange. And that is what will set a precedent for the rest of us. And I think that, that should have been mentioned, but whatever. Like, I'm glad people are pushing back against Blinken, and we're able to say a couple things.
Anthony, there was 2 pushbacks. Let's get to the third one, and the best one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We give credit where credit's due. PSL, sometimes we can have some criticisms about them, especially when it comes to their pandemic and COVID mentality. Just awful. But when it does come to, we've met some anti-imperialists out there from PSL. We met somebody in Colombia, was amazing.
Yeah.
So let's roll this clip right here of another PSL member right now, just going and letting Blinken have it. And everything he says, fam, is so on the money. So on the money, because this donkey just Blinken.
And he was killed. You're here to lecture about media freedom when you installed a dictatorship that murders journalists and murders innocent people. You have blood on your hands. Because of your lies, there was a coup in Bolivia, a coup against the democratically elected government. And that dictatorship that you helped install massacred 36 people, 36 innocent people who are protesting for the restoration of their democracy, for the restoration of the independence of their country. In the towns of Sacaba and Secata, people were protesting peacefully, indigenous people, workers, women, students, demanding the restoration of that democracy that you helped destroy. Destroy because the United States wanted to plunder the resources, the lithium, the gold, all of the mineral resources, the gas of Bolivia, the corporations in Wall Street in the United States wanted to loot the resources of Bolivia. And so you helped install a dictatorship that would facilitate that looting. In Sacaba and Secata, dozens of people were massacred by the soldiers of your dictatorship. The soldiers of your dictatorship. And one of the people that your dictatorship murdered was a journalist, Sebastian Moro. He was a journalist who was exposing the lies that you were telling and exposing the truth about the coup that you orchestrated, and he was beaten to death in his apartment. And now you come here and dare to lecture about media freedom, about democracy, about human rights. You have no shame. You're a murderer, and you're a puppet of the United States. A puppet of the United States. In Venezuela, too, you dared to support the coup attempt that Juan Guaido ridiculously, outrageously tried to attempt and declare himself the president of Venezuela. What a lie! What a lie! The majority of people in Venezuela had never even heard of Juan Guaido. And yet you said that he's the president, and I believe you still ridiculously say that Juan Guaido is the president of Venezuela. That is an outrage and it's insult. An insult to the democracy and the sovereignty of the people of Venezuela. How dare you do this? You murderer who murdered people in Bolivia. You murderer who supported the sanctions in Venezuela. The sanctions in Venezuela that killed 40,000 people. 40,000 people because of your lies, because of the coup attempt that you've been part of. And you are nothing but a murderer, and you have no shame here to come and talk about human rights, to lecture the whole world, to lecture the whole hemisphere, the whole hemisphere about democracy and the freedom of the press. When Sebastian Moro, an Argentine journalist who is in Bolivia, exposing the truth about the coup, and he was killed. You're here to lecture about media freedom when you installed a dictatorship that murders journalists, that murders innocent people, workers, indigenous people, students, you.
I mean, that's why this summit is a farce. It's an entire farce. I mean, it is a joke to the rest of the world. Everybody in the world knows the United States does what they do. Everybody in the world. The mechanisms, the only people that don't know that are some of its own citizens.
They'll put this on the MSNBC tonight, right? They'll show this, right?
Unless to vilify the crazy far left. And here's the thing of what he said, right? U.S. back to Bolivia, back coups in Venezuela, attempts of course, sanctions that are still hurting. Venezuela is so bad that the many who left have gone and actually really, a lot of them, and gone into Peru and to Colombia. They're taking these jobs. Some of them have turned into crime because they're so desperate. It creates a series of things that you don't even know. Like, it's just a butterfly effect of evil. And that is what the U.S. State Department is responsible for. And the fact that somebody says it, is able to say it to their face, I think it's lovely to see that.
I love the fact he was talking about the minerals and all that stuff. It's like, hey, dude, come here. Let me tell you about some stuff about the Fourth Industrial Revolution. It's all connected. But I mean, and they want these countries unstable for a reason, fam. They want to be able to extract these minerals out on pennies on the dollar. So if you keep the country in chaos, you keep it freaking, as a security threat when they don't have any stability, you can then extract those minerals out of that country for pennies on the dollar. Meanwhile, you thrust your monetary system on the people. So there are austerity measures all over the place where everything's on the back of the workers, and the elites just get to pick the place bone dry and run away, fam. And this is amazing that this guy got all of that in. Kudos to that gentleman over there for doing so. Yeah,
100% kudos to him. So that's that for that section. And just one more short section.
Go ahead. Let's jump right into it. You want to do some super rays? You want to just jump into it?
Let's just jump right into it.
Bam.
Okay, so guys, just right along with this, right? The State Department is going to introduce this digital communications network for the Americas. It's a division in their already established network. And Anthony Blinken announced it yesterday. He said, I announced at the Cronkite ASU the launch of a new chapter of the Disinformation Communications Network, which will benefit journalists in the Americas by expanding their resources and connections, empowering the reporting and work in the Americas. So now we need another propagandist network, so to speak, to basically take the truth and smear it as disinformation, right? And put out actual disinformation as the truth. So it's basically another aspect of the Ministry of Truth, where they're going to create this CIA propaganda for the next generations to come. And I mean, this is insane to me that this is, people aren't pushing back against this, this journalist, I think Roberto Braga, said the United States is launching the first digital communications network for the Americas, the DCN. And he announced it, of course, at the summit. And
it's like Radio Free Network for the Global South. Our means of propaganda for pushing it through, so you stand behind the coup.
And this John Feely talks more about the newly launched OAS Official Center for Media Integrity of the Americas. The OAS official. So the OAS gets to go, and so the Organization of American States, the one Luis Almagro was the leader of the OAS, and he was the one that was getting yelled at by that gentleman because, of course, under his jurisdiction, the coup happened. So this is just going to allow for more cooing and more things to happen. And again, we don't need this. We already have CNN, MSNBC, we have Fox, we have major networks that controlled by these few corporations that control our media.
Yeah.
Already our state propaganda. They won't be labeled as such, but that's what they are, right?
Well, it's information, propaganda information, kind of amassed with mass psychosis, right?
Yeah.
Like how you get people just like conformed to think that this is the way that this coming out of this TV screen is actual news. Like this is news, because they have all the bells and whistles and whatnot, and they get all serious in the way they kind of form things.
Yeah.
But they're only producing one narrative right now, and that's it. And that's the state narrative, and that they're going to just kind of emulate what they do all over the globe. It's to use their resources to push as much media out there as possible, suppress the real media out there, whatnot. We had Maj Touré yesterday on the morning show, and he talked about it. Like what we have to do is, as citizens, we have to empower citizen journalists that are going to bring us the truth. We have to trust in people who've come out and put their names and lives on the line, and pay them. Maybe have a half a beer at night instead of one beer a night to send this journalist over here, to over there. It's like what the people have done to send us to Colombia. Well, we have to continue to do that right now because they're using all their tools in their bags to make sure that their narrative is the one out in front and center, and ours gets oppressed, suppressed, whatever you want to talk about it. But that's the plan. Use the media as a tool. Use the propaganda as a tool. Sway the people the way you want to sway them.
100%. And that's. I mean, they're just gonna try to get every crevice, steal independent media from us, co-opt it. That's exactly what
Look
they're
what
doing.
CNN did. They tried to do a
Yep.
streaming service because they wanted to emulate. They thought it was, it's about format. No, people don't watch us because of our format, because we have this kind of format here that's podcasty and it's a little bit more raw than what you see in CNN. They follow us because they believe what we're saying is truthful, that we're being actual citizen journalists and bringing them the information on the streets that they refuse to bring you. That's what it's all about. It's about integrity and character, not format.
And meanwhile, while this is all happening, with the DeMOCKracy Summit, the United States domestic economy is falling apart. People are really, I hear the gas is crazy, but also in Florida where the minimum wage is less.
Ridiculous.
And in parts of the country where minimum wage is even less than $10, it's close to $5, the gas prices. I mean, this is, and things have gone up so much. My mother went shopping the other day and she was like, this is insane. And it just keeps going up. It's going to get worse. Biden told you it would get worse. And so here is our Steve's number one crush. I'm going to introduce her as that now because I keep forgetting her name. So
he calls her Sugar Bear.
Sugar Bear. Okay. I'm not going to call her that. I think that's disrespectful, Steve, in spite of her being, a talking head. But let's just play it.
What I'm trying to say to you is that the economy is in a better place than it has been historically. And so we feel here at this administration, and other experts as well, is that we feel that we are in a good position to take on inflation. We are in a good position to really start really working on what
She deserves whatever she gets, fam. I don't give a shit if it's disrespectful or not. The fact that she has the nerve to stand up there while people are suffering and starving and say that shit, it's just downright
that is her job.
Disgusting.
She's just a paid talking propagandist. That's why the other one went to MSNBC because it's easier. And the other one, like I said, was better. She had the dead eyes.
The other
and
one?
the peppermint patty.
I find that disrespectful. She looks more like Raggedy Ann.
No, stop. Don't go. Gingers are our friends. Do not go after gingers, okay?
Gingers are evil.
Caleb Maupin's a good ginger. We love gingers here.
Tyrant evil bastard. Love you, Caleb.
Stop.
You're not a tyrant evil bastard. You're my friend.
Oh, you're my friend.
You're my friend.
Okay, so yeah, she's lost. I mean, nobody believes this, obviously, especially Americans that are literally.
I got to pull up her real name because I know it's Karine.
Yeah.
Pierre.
It's something like that.
I got to make sure I get it right.
I'm not calling her Sugar Bear. Okay, so the
Karine
next.
Jean-Pierre.
Okay, Karine Jean-Pierre. Okay, Jean-Pierre.
Karine Jean-Pierre. What else we got?
So this is the part I wanted to show because she doesn't know what she's talking about, and this is cringe right now. Just watch this video.
Okay.
Some different subject. The president's meeting with President Bolsonaro of Brazil. The AP is reporting that the Brazilian government, President Bolsonaro, wanted concessions from the president for that meeting and for his attendance at the Summit of the Americas, that he wouldn't bring up. Bolsonaro's casting doubts about Brazil's election system, as well as environmental concerns in the Amazon. Can you confirm that report?
I cannot confirm that report. The president is looking forward to leaving tomorrow to head to the summit that we are hosting. I can say this: the United States continues to recognize Juan Guaido as the interim president of Venezuela. That said, while the interim government was not invited to participate in the main summit, they are welcome to participate in all 3 stakeholder forums and other events.
Wow.
I'm confused because how did we go from Bolsonaro
to Juan Guaido?
And I think it was funny. Camilla commented in the comment section. It must be nice to not know who Juan Guaido is.
You didn't even say his name right, Juan Guaido.
I mean, guys, they're setting her up for failure, man. Really?
Well, but they have so many ways to protect her, fam. She's gay. She's an immigrant. You know, if you pick on her, you're misogynist. If you know what I'm saying, you're racist. It's an immigrant. You're bullying her.
Maybe there's some level of her consciousness that is like, because there are other videos that you guys played earlier today in the morning show where she was like all over the place, like missing her words, missing her marks. There might be an element of, what the hell am I doing here? And I mean, that's very hopeful of me, but maybe perhaps there's that. Now, speaking of morons, we have to play this on the show because I had some comments made with, we're in a situation. We've been talking about the imperialism of the United States, the farce of this DeMOCKracy summit, the pushback from Latin America and from other organizations and groups, the agendas, the global agendas, and all of that's happening. Now we have the gun situation, right? The Second Amendment, where, like I said earlier on the morning show, I think it's stupid to want to continue to arm the military, the police, and the fascist state and disarm the people. I don't like guns. I'll be the first one to tell you that. But in this situation, the first thing you need to revolt, and I'm not pushing anybody to do that, I will say that, but I will say that happens. Kennedy said, you make a peaceful revolution impossible. You make a violent revolution inevitable. And of course, so there's our declaration, and our Constitution says that when the government fails, people have the right to push back.
I mentioned today too, even Mark said that.
And Mark said it.
Mark said that a working class unarmed or disarmed is a very dangerous situation.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no way in this moment, right? And so Americans are not going to give up the Second Amendment. I think what you said earlier is it's possible that they're going to raise the age to 21.
Yeah, and I think get something from it. The Republicans are going to act like, oh my God, like we tried to fend off this and that. We had to give up this. And it's once again, it's just slowly, they're inching. They want to disarm us faster, but they're inching little by little. So now what they're going to do is going to cut the age from 18 to 21.
And it's going to make it more expensive for people to get guns. So who's going to have more guns? Rich people. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is all about protecting. Also, the class issue is the elite will always have access to guns, whereas the poor's, you don't get no guns. Yeah. And again, if you want a successful revolution, you need to get the arms. That's just how it works.
Saying that it's a right-wing trope and say, well, criminals are going to eventually end up with the guns. And you're like, well, that's a right-wing trope. Well, our government just gave $40 billion of weapons to Nazis, fucking Nazis. So I'm not going to trust them.
Kai wants to give them all the weapons they take from us to the Azov Battalion.
I'm not talking about like criminals who are looking to feed themselves, whatnot, that break the law because they're starving. I'm talking about criminals who are funded just out there to make sure that they torment and put fear into the public, whatnot, at the hands of fascist leaders, groups like these groups out there. These groups, and Alex Rubenstein wrote this amazing article talking about these people that get trained over there and they come home to the United States now, and all the tactics they learned over there, which is about not only just taking areas and fighting and whatnot, military actors, but it's torture. It's torture. Yeah. Because they want to put fear into the people. They want to keep the people under control, so they will torture and kill people like they're doing in the Ukraine right now as we're funding that shit. So I'm not going to trust our government to do anything right. No. I am not giving up my arms And a lot of people in America that say the same thing. I don't have any arms yet.
It's not a left-right issue. It is an issue of survival. It is an issue of are you really there to bring a government or a something by and for the people? Are you going to allow this fascist government to continue taking your rights away? It is that simple, and it doesn't have to be this left-right paradigm.
But the left in America better take its head out the ass, and they think they're so fucking safe with their Starbucks and their big areas, and then let the police come protect me and stuff like that. That might have a beat today, but tomorrow you're going to say somebody come protect me from the police as they're coming to take you away.
And by the way, police, there was that pregnant woman that a cop in Miami bashed, and she lost her child. It was very graphic. And then we have this continuing all over the place, and people want the public to give up arms. That's why it's so important to have the guests that you had on, because this is the minorities, these people that the Democrats go after, immigrants, Black people, poor people. They're the ones that are most vulnerable in this situation. And that doesn't change. In fact, it is exacerbated by the situation. If you want to control the Second Amendment too much, and it's not because I'm a huge, patriot lover of the Second Amendment guns, it's because it's just common logical sense. So let's listen to what
Matthew McConaughey.
All right.
I don't know if I'm going to cast him in the next role. We have your information. Don't call us. We'll call you. Sorry, I don't think you get the role.
My wife and I, Camilla, we spent most of last week on the ground with the families in Uvalde, Texas. We shared stories, tears, and memories. Maite wore green high-top Converse with a heart she had hand-drawn on the right toe because they represented her love of nature. These are the same green Converse on her feet that turned out to be the only clear evidence that could identify her after the shooting. How about that? We need responsible gun ownership. Responsible gun ownership. We need background checks. But people in power have failed to act. So we're asking you. And I'm asking you, will you please ask yourselves, can both sides rise above? Can both sides see beyond the political problem at hand and admit that we have a life preservation problem on our hands? Because we got a chance right now to reach for and to grasp a higher ground above our political affiliations.
I'm not going to go back and watch any of his movies anymore. I mean, God damn it. He was such a stunad, and then he became a late bloomer, had some great roles, and some Dallas Buyers Club was an amazing movie, fam. It really was. And that really talked about what the government was doing. He was talking about the FDA, and now to see him once again move far away from that particular fucking role right there into the hands of the oligarch and doing their bidding and their work as a person who is a famous person, using your celebrity for the state and rather for what's right and what's wrong. It's disgusting. Fuck you, Matthew McConaughey.
The empire. It's an empire. It is an empire, and it's in decay.
Go Scratch.
And that's why this is happening. Go Scratch and
Super Rays, fam.
Super Rays. I think that's it, right?
Yeah,
no. There's one more.
There's one more?
Is there? I think so. Unless this is the one. Oh no, that's
that was
it.
The one.
That was it.
That was Matthew.
That was Matthew. We'll save the next section for when you
for
go.
Friday. Right over there. Let's get some Super Rays. By the way, 230, almost 240 people watching on YouTube, guys. Thank you for sharing. We got almost 92 here on the Convo Couch, fam. What do you got for the Super Rays there? Who's that?
Chris Leon. AMLO needs to continue his movement, but he faces opposition even in his own country. Yes, he does. The white Mexican gusanos in media like Televisa and Univision do major harm to misinform people. You even see how Mexican television despises its own people by how they are portrayed in the media by white European Mexican as rich and the brown-skinned one is portrayed as a thug, white supremacy export. Absolutely. I mean, Latin America is its own worst enemy when it comes to racism and all of that. That is, I mean, in every single telenovela, in every single country that exists. And that is something, of course, that was pushed by colonialism. I had this conversation with my family the other day where, my father was like, we have the worst of the colonialists, the Spaniards, what they did to people, what they did, how they had plantations. It wasn't just the English. It wasn't just, the Northern Europeans. It was the Spanish, and the Spanish were awful. And that still is pervasive in that. And I definitely Amlo has a lot of infiltrators in his party, as I've heard from several people. And this situation is one to definitely watch. But I believe that the people of Mexico and the leftist factions in Mexico, or the anti-imperialist factions in Mexico, do not want the United States to interfere. And they do a lot of work. We saw our friends from Mexico there, and, you know, they're far more on it than we are here.
Yeah.
DC, nobody ever talks about the 1994 assassination of Mexican president candidate / frontrunner Luis Donaldo Colosio for some reason. P.S. Sorry for giving y'all hell this AM. You're still my favorite tyrant. I am not a tyrant, DC. I am not a tyrant. I just don't think it's feasible for us to go from here, from this empire, to anarchy and be successful, because these people, you see how propagandized they are. They're not ready for it. They're not ready. They still think, you go to Latin America, you go to Bogota, you go to Lima, people believe the West is still the dream. They're neoliberals. They're like, in that, and they're far ahead as far as like getting democracy in their countries than we are. So when we're talking about anarchism, I understand what you guys are saying, and I think it's the ideal. Just like I think the goal of communism, a stateless society, is the ideal, where you have abundance, where everybody pretty much has what they want. But we need to evolve ourselves as human beings. People are not evolved yet to do that. These people that want daddy to govern them harder aren't just going to be like easily just come in and function into being able to do things for themselves. How are we going to provide? How are you going to provide health for people, medicine, agriculture? Like for me, like if everything goes down, you have to rebuild. So that's why I agree with parallel structures. So they're there while everything falls apart. Then you at least have some sort of foundation and some sort of basis. But I just don't see how this sort of, I believe it's too idealistic and pacifist to think that you're not going to kill anybody, because people are going to try to kill you. That's what happens when everything falls apart. Factions built, and these factions start having wars with each other. So you're back with the clan, in the clan situation, and it just starts all over again. So that's why it's important to have these structures implemented to where you want to go. But I don't think it's going to happen overnight. What?
I was going to say is the difference between violence and self-defense. Read the last two. We got to get out of here.
That difference gets completely obliterated at times. Great show from Sobi. Thank you very much. Aram, it should also be said about the U.S.-backed militant counterinsurgency that the CIA encourages proxies to confront peaceful and unarmed human and worker and environmental rights organizers and activists. Those are the targets. So the U.S.-supported proxies generally do not openly confront elected politicians or armed police or military. You're 100% right there, Aram. So, guys, we do have to go. I have to go to L.A. now. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for supporting us. And we will continue to do as much as we can. I will be in Moscow soon.
Mm-hmm. Combo Style Couch is still going, though, so we'll still be doing our show.
Yeah.
It was nice, though, fam, that you came in, did the Anarchy in the morning, did the Combo Couch from the studio. And when you come return to the States,
the studio where you and I are together. I think that's really
of course. It's always better that way when we're together. I think we just, because we're very passionate people, very emotional people, and we feed off that energy. I mean, we have, classical training too, as well, to pay attention, Meisner technique over here. She listens. So, it's listening techniques and stuff. And me with the, kind of natural method acting.
Oh, stop.
The method acting.
Oh, stop. Oh, geez.
Even though I wasn't really a big Lee Strasberg guy, I was more like a hybrid. I liked Stella Adler.
I liked her way better than Lee Strasberg. Okay. All right. Like Pasta.
Well, guys, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Catch us this weekend. We got a lot of stuff going on. Fam is going to get to LA right now and cover the People's Summit, correct?
Yeah. There's a protest too so Joe Biden's arriving today. Yeah. That's the thing.
We might be in Tijuana. We might be in LA. We don't know where we're going to be. Fee will give us the insight to what's going on when she gets the boots on the ground. But thank you guys. If you have a few extra bucks, you can go to the givesendgo.com/support the Combo Couch. We'll use it for this work on the ground like we always do. We want to thank you for getting us to Colombia. Amazing time. Second round still coming up. We're staying close contact
with our connections
in Bogota and all over around the region, whatnot. So that is that. But thank you guys. We do have a Patreon. Thank you to all our Patreons. Go to theconvocouch.com. We want to find other ways to support, but most importantly, go to Rockfin. That's our free speech platform. You can always be a subscriber for $9.99 a month. You get everybody's premium content across the board on the platform. So thank you so much. Thank you, Fee, for coming on in today. I really do appreciate it, and I'd love to have you here. For Pasta Jardula,
Fiorella.
Oz on those ones and twos.
Shout out to all the Jilly Loves and the moderators on the chat.
Thank
Lucky,
you guys so much.
You.
We can't do it without you.
Convo out.
Peace.
See you guys.